Wayne Kramer. I love talking to managed service providers, MSPs, generally speaking, and especially the ones that were an MSP and then they leave, they sell, they get out, and then they provide a solution to help MSP. Wayne fits this mold. He, for 20 years, had an MSP. He was getting 60% margin. Paul Dipple himself called him out at a meeting and said, there's MSPs, best of class, 25%, 30%. And then we have Wayne. Can you explain to us how, you get these margins, 60%? And Wayne broke it down. He said communication, better communication with the clients. So he has this platform now called Symoda that does just that. It has better communication. It's a mobile app. It connects through. It's really gets things done quicker. Fascinating take on it. He's with the ConnectWise PitchIT program, as I mentioned, and really looking forward to working with him. I opened up with rugby. He's from Ottawa. Actually, he's from Ireland. He lives in Ottawa now. Big rugby fan. I mean, I just don't see it. It fascinates me. It seems unstructured, but I don't know the sport. We talk about that. He is a Manchester United fan, which is a problem, of course, is me being a Manchester City fan, and we do talk about that just a little bit towards the end. His take on discipline is very unique, and his motivation, never heard it before. But great conversation with Wayne Kramer. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. So I will be having conversations with a lot of the coaches and the finalists from 2023 and, just kind of talking about them a little bit and their solution in some future podcasts. We want to make kind of an introduction to that as well.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, as the years progress, more people are getting involved, and then back to these vendors looking for a way to create a name for themselves with consistency. They need people like you, which is why I'm so thrilled that you're willing to work with me and work with us on this. So you're going to be you've graciously accepted to host these, and I appreciate that. Where you'll interview all our contestants. You're also going to interview last year's head coaches, last year's judges, last year's finalists. So you're doing all that. And I think it's important, for if you're a vendor and you're watching these, take note of this and how you get more involved. Watch the program. Watch what these men and women are all doing with us, because they're doing a lot. That's how you grow your business. If you're an MSP, watch these things. Get to know who people are and then inquire, because you're all looking to have stack alignment and you're all looking for credible and reputable businesses. We're vetting them out for you. We're putting them on display for you. Watch them, ask questions, find out, do your due diligence. Don't wait until IT Nation Connect to see you like at a booth and then buy 5 or 6 different technologies that you don't need.
So 2024 PitchIT, ConnectWise PitchIT. What's new and exciting about it?
Oh my Lord. So for those that have not followed any of this, I took over the PitchIT program 2 years ago, and we've had such great success, with like really great success. And went from, it's become one of the most predominant programs in the space now. Matter of fact, I was doing some research the other day, and about 5 or 6 other pitching things have spun off from mine and from ConnectWise PitchIT with other people that are running it. So it's great to see because I think it's the thing about Pitch It is it's all about innovation. It's all about being daring and willing to do things right. I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's a scary situation. You have to be ignorantly optimistic, and you have to be willing to maybe fail a lot more than you'll succeed, and you have to have very thick skin. But you
Mm.
always have to be innovative and creative. So it's nice to see that this has spun off into other groups that have started doing it because I think the hardest challenge for most startup vendors is getting their name out there, right? Getting people to know that they exist. And the reality of it is, you can't just be there one time. You have to show consistency. You have to be in there for the long haul
Mm.
for the partners to really be able to for you to establish credibility, right? Because there's been plenty of fly by night businesses that have came out big and gone in 6 months. And for partners, their whole business is built around these vendors, these products. So they're making lifelong business decisions off of these.
Mm.
So it's great, it's exciting, but back to the program itself, it's jumped leaps and bounds. It went from being just a competition where they picked a few people, a few really good product companies to pitch at live at IT Nation Connect, to where we turn into an accelerated incubator program for. It's a season. It's literally a competitive season now at this point.
Mm.
Um, and went from 5 or 7 or maybe even 10 vendors that are involved until they narrowed down to 3. To 2 years ago was 18. Last year was 26.
Wow.
And we had way more applications than that. That was just the ones that we thought were the best fit.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're getting ready to put out the press release in a couple of days because then the application process will start February 1st. So I recommend anybody from around the entire globe to apply. We've had over just last year alone 6 different countries represented, between the U.S., Canada, to Israel, to Australia, to New Zealand, to the U.K. They all involved in this competition.
Talk to you, Wayne Kramer. Thanks so much for your time today. So, explain to me, Wayne, the attraction to rugby.
Ooh,
You love it,
it's
huh?
it's a colossal game. It's I get so excited. I don't know what it is. I get so involved when I watch rugby. I played a little bit of rugby when I was younger, but I'm small. I'm only like 5'7", so everyone got too big for me for a finish. And if you look at it from the outside, it really looks like a brutal sport where you're just running into each other, try and get the ball and run past and touch it on the ground. But it's incredibly technical. The design is to keep the ball in play. The design is to build stuff up from the back and then find holes and punch through them and get through to those scores and always keep moving and going. So it's incredibly technical, and the advancement in rugby over the last like 10, 15 years has been crazy. You used to see these
Hmm.
big guys who are just built on size, but now they're the same size, but almost built like
Hmm.
sprinters. So they've got power, they've got pace, they're flying into each other. So now that's what you're actually trying to see an awful lot in rugby is an awful lot of head injuries now because people are going so fast and they're so big. And they're now trying to figure out how to do that because again, they've really got no protection on them at all, bar a gum shield. So
Yeah, we're seeing that in American football too. But in rugby, you're not supposed to touch the head, correct?
you shouldn't. No, you
Right.
can't. You're meant to wrap. Like even
Wrap.
when you try and tackle, you have to really be good at tackling before you're even allowed play in a live game.
Hmm.
So you'll be kept to one side. If you can't wrap, if you can't bind, if you can't understand to put your cheek onto someone's thigh or kind of the bottom of the butt to make sure that you don't go flying, you're going to be in just as bad a place as well.
Wow.
So it's really down to being technical and making quick decisions very fast, not just for you, but for the person around you as well.
I don't have a lot of experience, but when I do, I see these World Cup games. Like I've got to watch some of the World Cup. I mean, it's the world for goodness, and it's generally like South Africa and Australia, New Zealand have a lot of Although, anyway, those are the big powerhouses. Would you say that?
I war until recently, but Ireland has been number one and number two in the world for the last while. Just unfortunately,
Wow.
we don't perform well on the world stage for some reason. We do
Hmm.
we keep on dropping out at the quarterfinals, but we have a team. I've had a team capable of winning those sorts of games for the last 10 years. And I just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, Ireland and South Africa did a test in South Africa, which is pretty tough for Irish players because it's incredibly hot, high above
Ah.
water, sea level, all those different things. And they Australia, or sorry, South Africa won the first game, Ireland won the second game.
Wow.
So it's becoming incredibly close between Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. So yeah, you got
Yeah.
France in there as well in the UK.
France. Yeah.
Argentina are pretty good as well.
Mm,
Um, one thing I have heard is that I know Canada, where I'm at now,
yeah. How do I?
they don't, they haven't put an awful lot into rugby for a long time, but they've now started to hire a whole pile of ex-Ireland coaches to try and build up
Ah.
the infrastructure, because you got to start with youth first. You got to bring all that in, because you can't just build one team and then hope that they last for 20, 30 years. You got to be bringing other kids around it and supporting. So they're trying to bring that infrastructure, bring the love to the game, and do that now, which I anticipate in the next 20, 30 years, you'll start to hear a little bit more about Canada. And the US probably started that about 5, 10 years ago. And I think you'll start seeing a little bit more there.
Yeah, you wonder how. I mean, lacrosse has taken big hold here in North America. Excuse me, in the states, it's just so
Yep.
popular. And in college, I remember there was a lot of rugby, and the rugby parties were pretty damn good. Uh, and it seems very structured to me. I guess you really start to like teams in a sport when you get to know the players and the team a little bit, and perhaps that's what I'm lacking.
Maybe a little bit. I think though, when it comes to rugby, you're a soccer fan as well.
Certainly.
You know yourself that those games don't come down to individual moments of brilliance all the time. It's been a team effort to get someone to that point to then be able to perform that piece. And that's the thing about those sorts of sports, whether it's rugby, soccer, lacrosse, hockey,
Hmm.
even to a degree. And even in Ireland, we have two games which are called Gaelic games. It's called Gaelic football and Gaelic hurling. Hurling is like lacrosse, but with a far bigger field, a ball that can go a lot faster.
Hmm.
And you're literally playing it with a small little helmet that's not going to do an awful lot of help. So
Wow.
think of baseball, rugby, lacrosse, and a whole pile of other sports combined, and a whole pile of amateur people playing it for the love of the game, not for money
Hmm.
or anything else. So it's phenomenal.
Also, isn't field hockey pretty popular in Ireland?
A little bit. It definitely would be played. It was more of an English British
Oh,
sport.
it's English. Mm.
But there's definitely field hockey clubs in Ireland too. That's there, so it did make its way over to Ireland as well. So
It's odd in the States. Field hockey is only in high school is only girls. There was no male field hockey. It's very odd.
yeah,
Very odd.
yeah. I'm not quite sure why that happens. Like I will say it is probably still a sport today that I don't know the exact stats, but there's
Hmm.
definitely a lot of women playing it. So, which I think is great. So it's great to see a sport actually be dominated by that more so than anything else. So instead of feeling like they're playing the female version or the non-male version of
Hmm.
something at a lower pace or a lower cost or whatever. So
A lot of bending over in field hockey, Wayne. I don't know my back. I don't
yeah,
know. I'm older now.
it's yeah. I can see it's a young person's game. I wouldn't think it
Yes,
would
like most sports.
be.
Yeah, yeah. So you were an MSP for 20 years. You
Yeah,
sold to
indeed.
PE. Now,
Yep.
why come back?
The love of service. I think at this stage, when you get into this industry, it's like a religion. You just once you're in it and you follow it, you love it. You're
Hmm.
always going to be there for people on the other side. And for me, when it came to IT work, no matter what it was, whether I used to work in like HP, Fidelity Investments, I worked in the enterprise space as well before that. But definitely when it came down to working at the MSP level, working with SMBs, you felt you could make a difference in people's
Hmm.
days and lives. And that's where my love for customer service and getting people back up and servicing their customers and serving the community that they're serving, that just became the big piece for me itself. So, and it's what I loved about it.
Did you make the Symoda platform while at the MSP or post?
Post, definitely ideas around that um would have been kind of brewing within my head or my big hard
Hmm.
ball noggin here. But we only started working after we left, because we were doing a lot at the time. When we had sold the private equity, we had We then straight away went into a merger with another organization based out of the US, then purchased another 2 locations out of the US as well. So
Wow.
we had a lot going on. It wasn't a time to be stopping and thinking about creating a platform that was going to help MSPs. It was all about how do we get everybody aligned, how do we get our
Hmm.
systems in place, how do we adopt like everything from cyber right through to the delivery of projects and service across multiple locations. So
Were you a founder of the MSP?
I wasn't a founder of the MSP initially, but I would have been, I think I was like employee number 9 or something like that.
Oh,
So then
wow.
became a partner as we grew and built out our professional services department. That's kind of where kind of an awful lot of that love kind of came for me because
Hmm.
you can really interact with customers at a different level through there. Um, I always remember back in the days when we used to join SLI or be part of SLI, and we would go to meetings with Paul Dipple there, and Paul would say, "Here's the margins you'll ever see. If you decide to really concentrate on professional services, you might be able to get it to 50%. It's a tough slog. Need to put stuff in there, but off you go." And every time we have a meeting, he'd turn around and say, "But there's always one exception." And I was like, "Here is Wayne from grade A." And it was like, Wayne, explain to me how you're getting margins of 60%. I'm like, well, and it was really phenomenal to kind of hear that and get that kind of
Wow.
feedback to know that we were doing so well from especially a giant like him. But really at the end of the day, all we did was we just figured out how to communicate with our customers at a good level and ensure we always had that trust. And we got rid of as many barriers as made sense for us
Hmm.
to do work, not only for us but for them. We obviously wanted to make their customers better, but we also wanted to make our lives of our support teams better too. So
Paul Dipple congratulates you in front of people for making 60% margin. That is incredible. Now,
yeah,
you say you lowered the barriers and you made communication simpler. How, Wayne?
um, so we started to notice kind of early on that we needed dedicated people to be working in a professional services team, whether you decide to implement projects, whether that's workstations, all the way through to large line of business migrations. So we really decided that if we're having dedicated people in here, we got to treat it like its own department properly. So then we put a structure around that. We then brought in accounts. Sorry, not so we tied them alongside with our account managers, who then became BCIOs as we built all that out too. And then we realized that we need to have project management here. We can't not have project management. Um,
Hmm.
as technicians and people who service people, we're phenomenal firefighters, but we forget that there's planned instances that need to happen here that we can do. Um, to be able to provide a good service. And if you're able to plan an IT change, then technically we should be able to walk into this without causing too much downtime, too many issues, not too many unforeseen events. If we're going into a blind all the time, breaking down the door and doing stuff, then that's on us, and it can leave a sour taste in a customer's mouth. And we also realize that there's in one of those moments of a cutover, that's when you probably are doing, we used to call it open heart surgery in our customers. So if you are actually changing out, whether it was just moving their mail from on-prem to Office 365 or whatever it was, if you were there doing that at that time, um, you put your complete relationship with that customer at risk. So if you didn't take care of that, then we realized that was one of the primary keys that we had to have in place. So we then kind of evolved our project management with enough technicians around that to be able to support.
Hmm.
Um, and then we had to decide what level of communication we had to do. Do we have to follow some crazy ITIL process that was too in depth for anybody to not really like? Or did we actually just need to figure out, do we get onto weekly call with a customer, or was it a weekly email? Was it a stats? And then we kind of worked our way through that to figure out, okay, based on this industry, because we found ourselves down a couple, like 4 or 5 specific niches that we went after. And then we really started to understand how their businesses operate, how those office managers would want to be presented with information, and then we were able to decide, okay, based on this type of project, you're going to get this level of project management. We didn't turn around to the customer and say, hey, pick which type of level of project management you want. We just knew instinctively that this is the level that we'd want to get to. And then because we had dedicated people working as project managers, we were able to have them build a relationship with a customer that way. And they almost became like a sub VCIO for that customer as well. But it also meant that we didn't have to bring a VCIO into the day to day of those projects and managing those projects. We could
Hmm.
we really defined it that there was a handoff from their business services team into our professional services team. And then from there, professional service team was 100%. If they signed off and said we're ready to go, they were the people who were running with that ball, and they had to control that. So we then just continued to evolve, make that better and better. Um, and then we really kind of went down the path of hardware as a service a long time ago. We really saw the value in that like very early on
Really?
within the MSP space. Like probably even 10 years ago, we were already doing it. We even would give like a startup, we'd call it a network in a box, where basically I could be a startup environment. And here was a cage we would roll. And we actually had these ideas where we'd all be sat on the top of a cage going, here's your computer network. And we arrive in as a small little quarter rack with a server, a firewall, UPS, switch, everything that they needed to be able to go. And then we just plugged it in and off we went. And then we built on workstations, we built on firewalls, we did all these different things. And then we realized that because hardware as a service made so much sense to our customer base, we then started looking, how can we do this with our project time as well? So probably about 7 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, we devised a way to come up with, here's 90% of the types of projects an organization is going to go through. Let's build out a 3-year roadmap of what those projects are, and then let's combine that all together into a per user cost. So that meant automatically, when you were sitting down to talk to customers who signed up for that, you're only talking about hardware. The labor was already paid for. We'd always accounted for that. And then that in turn were the things that forced us to be incredibly conscious of the time and effort that we had to go into it. Whereas I always felt when it was time and materials, you could really throw your trust with a customer out the door. Whereas we primarily only stuck to a fixed fee for a project, because then the onus was on us in order to be able to deliver well on our customer.
Wow, fixed fee projects has and just lowering those barriers of communication. If you had your current Symoda platform back then, could you have been 70% margin?
I'd love to say it would throw 10% margin on every single department out there. I do know that our service desk would have been incredibly happy, and their margin probably would have gone up, because
Wow.
at the time, some of the complaints that we would get would be left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So you make a change, all of a sudden everyone is trained by your onboarding to say pick up this number and call for help, even if you had sent an email out to everybody beforehand to turn around and say no, don't contact that person for this day, there's going to be a technician available. But then also as well, when you get to a certain size, we have this habit in the space, especially as technicians, to turn around and say, okay, I see a problem in front of me, I'm going to fix this, because I'm gonna fix it. It's like it's ingrained in us. So then people would forget to look at all the information that was out there, to let them know what was going on. So what we actually tried to do to fix that was we put up on a big screen in our service desk to say, here's the most recent change that happened, and our project managers were had to update that and specify X company just went this migration, here's the technician who did it. So now they could look up and see, instead of being dependent on a pop-up will have the right information, which generally didn't, on all those different pieces. So having the ability to let customers know that there's an outage, guide them in a different path to where they need to go and get support, and let the technician know as well that, hey, there was a change, let's not accidentally revert it back. To be honest with you, not that technicians would accidentally revert it back, they would see it pretty quickly, but it quickly became oh, hang on a second, let me look into your problem for you. And then 5 minutes later, troubleshooting, like, oh, I see, our professional services team did something last night, and that's what caused this problem. Whereas when you're a customer and you've been on hold for 5 minutes, and then eventually you hear that, it's like, sorry, what? How did you
Hmm.
not know this already? So it's all those kind of pieces where the communication was key, and an area that we really wanted to look at and see, is there a better way for us to fix that?
Hmm. So you sell the MSP, and then you decide to make this Symoda platform that I mentioned, and it's really from the outside in you're looking at. So tell me what it does.
So today we decided to take a different path to an awful lot of the tools that are out there. So when we said we were going to start with a mobile application, not necessarily start with a web portal, or go straight
Hmm.
to a Teams or chat plug in or anything like that. Because we felt that the like a mobile device is incredibly powerful for people to be able to communicate and see quickly. And really, what kind of emphasized that to me was using the likes of Uber, like anything that you see in recent times with food industries or anything like that at all. Push notifications on a phone are incredibly powerful, and we don't utilize them at all. And the reason why we decided to go outside in was that we found that an awful lot of the solutions that are out there end up being focused primarily to help a solution that is with, or sorry, a problem that's within the MSP. So it's very technically focused, and we're still seeing it today with solutions where you can redesign all this, you can do all these different things, and it becomes very quick. And sorry, not very quick. It's not very quick to get anything done, and it's time consuming. You almost have to put people and more hours behind it. And we're like, we don't want to do that. We want to look at communication. We want to make it better. Um, so how can we put something in the customer's hand that is almost more like a two-way communication point? Because we always felt that we've never within the industry had control of how we were communicated to. Because
Hmm.
today people will pick up Teams, Slack, send us a text message, pick up a phone call, send an email. And out of nowhere, yeah, we can kind of capture where it is, but we don't really know why or not or how. And like we kind of get lost on what was the sensation they had before that. So then that's where we said, let's start looking at mobile. Let's concentrate on the end user first. Because like if I'm an end user, I don't want to have to go to 20 different drop downs to pick a technical issue I have because it's designed like the PSA that the portal is connected to. I just want to be able to ideally write it quickly down, or even just hit a mic icon and say it. And then be told when there's updates that are happening, whether it's like it's in progress, it's assigned, all those different things. And that's really kind of the bottom basic pieces of what we've done, because that's the entry level for any sort of end user tool that we need to do today. And the other thing that we wanted to do in relation to the platform as well was we wanted to bring the branding of the MSP to that. So on the tile of the application itself, we can change that to be the branding of the MSP.
Hmm.
Whereas everything else today kind of gets lost in the tools that they're in. If you look at Microsoft's tools of any kind, or whether it's Slack either, they're seeing these things, but they're seeing these notifications all the time from their customers. So we're like, how can we bring the MSP's brand to that? So then that it makes sense. So that was a very important piece that we knew to do, because like I know one of the main reasons why an awful lot of portals or solutions don't work today is not just because they're cumbersome and they're hard to find or whatever, but MSPs don't really want to deploy it out, because I don't want to tell my customer that here's X solution name and you use this to connect to me, because then I'm like, am I connecting to them or am I connecting to you? What what
Hmm.
what is this? So we really wanted to make that visual and bring it there. And then really kind of the next area that when we've done all that was like, what's the areas that we want to fix here with this process? So as I mentioned, we want to have this to be a two-way communication path. So one, how can we build trust within the platform that people know that they're going to get access to the right information? Get rid of the anxiety of, is someone looking at my problem or not? Gain trust of the MSP that they are actually working on these items. Um, but then also have that platform where the MSP is able to communicate back and start putting stuff in front of them. So whereas
Hmm.
that's guiding them towards self-help links in the future, all those different things. So how can we, the noise is out here. The noise is not in the MSP. We're dealing with noise that comes from outside. So as people become more and more okay with solving some of their problems, that's going to be great. Those solutions are going to arrive. But if we don't have a platform that we're happy to connect on, because Like people are using TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and unless we're going to start supporting people there, people aren't going to be coming back and picking up our solutions all the time. So it's got to be good. It's got to work well for that end user. And then kind of the next kind of piece that we try to look at was like, what was one of the biggest time sucks that we had when it came to communication and complaints? So as I kind of mentioned, like when in my time when I used to oversee our service desk, when when we would get complaints and I would sit down and talk to customers, they would turn around and say, well, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't understand what was happening here. X user over here came in, had problem, and then eventually it's crescendo of noise builds. And then there's the other things that we've dropped. Whether again we're firefighting, we're not able to spend all our time on one customer every day, every week, all the time. So inevitably you have these pieces are going to happen. But when I would sit down with the team, we'd find out that yeah, we've been trying to communicate over and back. We've been trying to get to the person. We've sent text emails, we did phone calls, we did all these different things. So now I'm here kind of looking like, all right, I'm just after apologizing to the customer here. But yet my technicians are literally doing everything they can to sit down and have that conversation with them. So you're kind of now caught between a rock and a hard place of like, who do we do? How do we fix this? And then again, because there's no other tools that kind of help here, um like not greatly anyway, we always knew that we are always going to ride back into here anyway pretty quickly, because you can update training manuals, you can do all the training that you want to do with your teams, and hey guys, when you pick up the phone you have to transfer this call to X person while we rebuild the trust. But invariably someone goes on vacation, someone gets sick, something happens, the phone system breaks, and all of a sudden someone sits on the on hold queue for 15 minutes without getting off. Like, what's going on? And you have all these things which are completely taken out of your control. And we're all just kind of sat here, kind of just blowing air at the end, going, how do we kind of get control of this? Um, so then to hopefully I won't go on for too long here, but anyway, when we were really looking at these pieces, we realized that when we had our best relationship with our customers, and I don't know if you found this yourself, Joey, but we would we would always have the best relationships at the three layers of our customers. And we used to define it out as being, we have our end users who are the default people who need support, are going to call in our service desk, might kind of hold some sort of help with a VP or something like that, might be an approver for a certain person. But they were kind of the main people who didn't really know what was going on, didn't like email, didn't like to sit on hold. And over time actually built a level of anxiety about asking for help. And especially if their first or second interaction wasn't great, then they were more inclined to just not do it or not call it. And then kind of that next layer was always that approver person. So we used to call them our Spocks, or a single point of contact. And in the beginning, we used to actually hand out Spock ears before Star Trek started disappearing and people didn't understand what we were talking about. But we you want to be able to communicate quickly with that person. Whether it's hey, we need to reboot your server, hey, we need this, hey, we need to add this license. You're kind of always having this interaction. And quite often these people are important people in their organizations. So they're building, they're in meetings, they're helping solve problems for their own customers and stuff like that. So it could quite often come at the end of the day where it is, or else, I don't know, where they're the person who's walking around trying to solve problems in an office because they haven't heard back, because maybe they haven't checked their email and realized that someone's waiting on them. And then the top level was always that C level. That's VIP, C level, the people who technically pay the bills, but aren't involved in the day-to-day IT part of things. And they kind of just want to know that if they call and they're expecting white glove service, they get it. So we always made an effort to communicate well at each of those levels. And when we did it well with our customers were incredibly happy. They were with us for years. They gave us referrals. If we dropped the ball, they understood. We were open and we could talk. We could talk at those levels. So we really want to be able to bring those sorts of things into Symoda. So then kind of that's that piece that we look like, how can we simplify a communication point? Not just here's a tool, but how can we simplify a communication friction point? And that's really what kind of got evolved as to what we're doing now, which is bringing requests and approval requests to people via push notifications. So one, they can interact with it very quickly. to say, yes, you can reboot my machine now, instead of trying to chase me down and find because I'm walking the dog because you're working my machine and I can go off and do something else. But then also on top of that, how can we then solve that request piece for the that approver as well? So, hey, this request has come in. This person needs X work done. And we need to either reboot the server tonight, or we need to plug in a new license. Do you approve that we can do that? And then again, send that to that end user via push notification to get a quick notify. They can look quickly within the solution, say, yep, I approve, goes back to the ticket, everything is updated, and everybody can move a little bit faster. So we really were concentrating right now is like, how can we solve and simplify that process? And again, just make that relationship better with our customers.
So, Wayne, the customer, let's say the architectural firm, will have an app on their phone. Will it be everyone in their office?
It will be, well, the goal is that it's everybody in their office, because you can use our solution to send out alerts to say, hey, there's a hurricane at the moment, or there's a large scale internet outage, or hey, there's a project that's happening tonight and there's going to be an outage between that. So the goal would be to have everything there. We are in the process of building or providing our solution onto Windows devices. It'll be done by the end of the summer. So then that way we can get past the concerns of whether people feel that they would like to have something on their device or not. But the goal is to 100%. We would love everybody to have the device on their hands, because it can use it like that.
And what do they see? They open up the app, they see it's white labeled, so they see the MSP that they're dealing with
Yep.
there. And then from there, is it like a chat at that point?
It's not a chat. You log in, you get brought to a very simple new ticket, your ticket. The number to call support is still there. And then they get the ability to be able to create a ticket themselves. Our goal is that they're always able to create a ticket in under a minute. All the information is gathered, compiled into the ticket for the MSP. We triage the ticket so we can define the priority based on standard triaging questions that we have there. So instead of the default, is this urgent or not tick box, it becomes, hey, is this affecting you to deliver a business outcome in the next 24 hours? Are you the only person who you currently know who is having this issue? Like those sorts of questions that we would
Hmm.
ask on the phone. But again, just make it nice and easy and simple for them. Um, and then quickly get them to be able to create the ticket. Um, we have the ability for people to be able to update the notes within that ticket. And we're following the path of making it feel like WhatsApp, text message, iMessage interaction. Not make you feel that you are live chatting with someone, because I always feel with the chat solutions that you do technically need to have someone sit behind that.
Hmm.
And I don't think we're really there at the AI level just to unleash that on the world of small businesses just yet, that we're all comfortable with. But the goal is that they're able to chat over and back. It's directly in the ticket. We get rid of all the pieces that are there, all the kind of the chains of email going back and email signatures, all those different things. And then with the ability to have someone else do the approvals, they can actually add notes into the same ticket as well. And then we follow that through. So now that approver can say, hey, yep, I did actually see this. Not only have I hit approved it, but by the way, technician, please don't do this. This is blah blah blah. They can give their small little 2 cents into a piece as well. So then it feels like it becomes an element of a group chat between everybody. Everybody's on the same page, and we're all working within that piece.
But wait a second. So the approver you just mentioned, that's at the client side or at the
That's at the
MSP
client
side?
side. Sorry, that's at the client side. Think if I'm the technician working in my PSA today, I don't have to go outside into anything different. I'm just working in my ticket.
So we're at an architectural firm, and one of the architects is having a problem. They can't print, or there's an issue. So they get on their phone. They create this ticket very quickly. I
Yep.
assume there's a level of drop downs, and if they have it set up, then somebody within their organization approves this ticket before it gets to the MSP.
No, we would. Sorry, I probably should have reiterated that first. Ticket will still go to the MSP.
I see.
If there's a requirement for, say, X company, that architecture firm, that hey, you have to get office manager's approval before we work on any ticket. It means the ticket is created, arrives into the system. They look, okay, this is X company. We need person's approval to work on this. we send the push notification, they're able to see the ticket on their phone, they say approve, and then everybody gets back to work and continues on.
And if it's somebody, what if it's not an architect? What if it's the president? Does it enter to the MSP in a different fashion, knowing the gravity of the request?
Today, it's more just we haven't got to that white glove phase just yet.
I
We want to
see.
build that with people because we understand that there's going to be some nuances to that. They probably want to go to directly to their VCIO or account manager, or
Mm,
directly to the service desk manager, but people may not want to make that available just yet. Um, but today we don't. But when they do create their ticket, it's automatically got their contact details. We would have onboarded them into the system, so now everybody knows that they are the VIP who's in there, not necessarily someone who's created a ticket on their behalf, or gets lost or not. Because it
mm,
was another bugbear we would get from customers where the named person on the door would call in, and the person would say, "Hey, my name is John White from White and Associates." And then all of a sudden, okay, hi John, how are you? I said, what's the name of the company you work for? White. And then you go through this whole process, and then you're here like, oh, okay, well, we need to get approval from your office manager because they're the approver to give you this license and stuff like that. So I was like, how can we just get rid of that friction as well? So people knew straight away that this is a VIP. Let's not ask questions that we don't need to.
so now the ticket's created from the end user within at the end user, regardless of their level or their department. It gets sent to the MSP. It goes right to their PSA, and the PSA at this point comes up with some decision making. It goes through dispatch. Now it's in the hands of the MSP for them to pass it along their journey.
Yep, exactly. So you update the status, that status gets replicated directly in the solution. You assign someone to it, that person's name arrives to being the person who's assigned in the solution.
Hmm.
When a request arrives out to someone, so we put a progress bar in there. Like it's generally it's a 5 or 6 step progress bar. So out of nowhere, and people can understand. Because if you think right now, I send an
That's
email,
cool.
and the majority of people um, the majority of people who um, like have like within their MSP have probably turned off the majority of notifications bar. We've got your ticket, we completed your ticket, because people would not like the over and back of those things and generally didn't read the emails anyway. So we always knew that there was this element of a black hole of a start and an
Hmm.
end, and no
Hmm.
one understood what happened in between. So generally what happens is a ticket gets opened, it gets triaged, it arrives into being assigned to someone then plunks it into being in progress, and then someone gets it done. So say for instance within our solution, if someone asks for something to be a request to say, hey, we need to reboot your machine to in order to apply a patch to fix X problem, and the in progress bar will now go to a different color and say that we're waiting on you to confirm the request. You click on the request piece that arrives on the top, it brings you to the request. It's not just a, hey, what am I actually trying to do here? We're
Hmm.
guiding the end user
Hmm.
to the actual piece that we need them to do. Instead of them feeling that I'm reading an awful lot of technical mumbo jumbo, and we don't understand. And I think that's one of the big things that we've forgotten about as an industry, is that we're here supporting non-technical people, but we think that people are more technical than they are sometimes, and a lot of people get put off with those types of interactions and not feeling they have. I even turned around to my wife this morning about something. Um, we're now post CrowdStrike, and her organization she works for
Huh.
got affected by CrowdStrike. I remember saying, she's pointed out something to me, and it's like, oh, you should actually put in a ticket on that. That could be an element of a that could be pointing out that there's a cyber issue or something going on there, because a whole pile of files that she wasn't potentially meant to be seeing was syncing with her OneDrive. I said, you should kind of maybe mention something. She's like, it's okay. I've already raised enough tickets this week, and I need to catch up my work. I've got other stuff to do. I'm like, eesh. Like that's the feeling that people have all the time, and like we've kind of like the security levels that we've had to go down and impact, and all the standardization that we've done as an industry in the last 5 to 8 years has been phenomenal,
Hmm.
but we've accidentally left customer experience behind, and we're creating an element of friction there. So
Which was the key to a lot of your profitability in the old MSP. So the ticket now is assigned internally. The MSP's got it over. Let's just say that they solve the issue. So then that progress bar goes to completion. Do they get a survey right there as well? What happens when when it's complete?
We haven't linked in to have a survey because a lot of solutions are out there, but that's
Hmm.
definitely something on our roadmap for us to be able to do. So the quick thumbs up, thumbs down, smiley
Hmm.
face, on a happy face,
Right,
so we
happy
can capture
face.
those things again, make it feel that they finished that out.
Hmm.
But we have found that once it gets complete, the end user quite often just gets the
Right.
notification and doesn't really bother going back into
Right.
the app
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see what's going on. It's like, it's done. Thanks. That's all
Right.
I need to know.
They can move on.
And it is
Hmm.
incredibly hard for us to get that feedback, as an industry anyway. But I think we do have to take note that the great thing with a mobile app versus an awful lot of other solutions that are out there is we can actually track if people are unhappy based on how they interacted with it. So how many times did they open it? How many times did it crash? How many times did they start a ticket and then stop a ticket? How many times did they click on a button and something happened? It's called rage clicks. They're here like, bah, 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 what's going on? And these are the pieces of information that we've not had access to as an industry before. And again, was another big focal point for us to be able to start on the mobile side of things to really evolve that first. Because then you find, well, again, kind of with the space, if we started with a web portal, we would arrive down into
Hmm.
a web portal solution, and then the mobile app would arrive into being something just a little bit nice and stuff, where I'm like, no, we gotta evolve
Start with
here first,
mobile. Yeah,
because
that's
this is
smart.
where it's going to go anyway. So
Hmm.
let's start and make this good.
And yeah, you could really separate because there's so many portals, Wayne, right? I mean, everything's got my car wash,
Yeah,
has everything has got a portal these days. And we're just getting portal. I mean, it's good though. We get to see status and we get to see things like that. But starting with the phone, I think is really smart. So you're in the ConnectWise PitchIT program, which is a great
yep.
incubator. Now, this is your second year. Have there been improvements since the first year? What do you want to get out of PitchIT?
Um, for me, obviously, pitch it is to learn as much as I can from other vendors that are out there, not trip over the same mistakes that people have had or done. We've all got good things that we do. We've all got weak points that we do. Like some of us are better at social media, some are not. And the one thing that I've really found with the program this year has, and it was always great anyway, and it's great within this industry, that's the amount of help that we all give and share each other anyway. But I really found this year that there's been so much more of a bigger effort for us to be able to combine together, to help together, to have
Hmm.
extra meetings where, hey guys, how could we help each other out like that? Hey guys, here's a way that I do a presentation around different things. Can we all jump on a call and get everybody's feedback? It's really
That's
starting
great.
to evolve more and more into a really cool incubator, and the quality of solutions now are phenomenal.
Hmm.
Like there's some really brilliant pieces, from whether it's cyber right down to customer experience, or um, helping define certain communication processes. Like authentication is a big piece in there, so there's another vendor who's doing stuff there, and we help with authentication ourselves by allowing people to use push notifications to do it. You've then got cyber solutions, you've got billing solutions, you've got all these different things that are there. That's just phenomenal, and we're just all here happy to help each other, and help this industry, because we really care, and that's been the big part of it. So
Yeah, it's a great program. ConnectWise does a really good job with that. I'm surprised that it's not done at other firms. I don't know that it is, but ConnectWise is doing it for quite a while. Sean Lardo does a great job there, and I'm glad you're part of it. And I only see it as a benefit.
yep, 100%. I get to talk to you, Joy.
Ah,
I get to talk rugby, and I get to talk about what we're trying to do. Like where else do we get to do stuff like that?
that combination, right? Well,
Yeah,
here's another topic I'd love your feedback on. So when I started my MSP in the 90s, I'm a little bit older than you, and I was working way too hard. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And I didn't have good, life work balance. I know you got your two boys, and
yep,
um before you know it, I was 340 pounds. I just was eating terribly. Wasn't exercising. The doctor said to me, if I don't lose weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. And she was just born. So I spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 130 pounds, kept it off. People ask me how, and I always say discipline. Right? I got focused. I got routine. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Wayne Kramer.
It's it's I don't know how to say discipline. I'm Irish, so I'm this angry Irish guy. So
Ah,
we do give a different type of discipline sometimes, but I'm sure if I asked my kids, they would say I'm a particularly disciplined father. But I do bring a lot of sarcasm to it as well.
certainly.
But not to say that I followed the same path as you, but yeah, I did have to lose 60 pounds myself. I was
Whoa.
after myself, and yeah, 100%. I got down to having discipline and having certain goals that you wanted to go after. I think what happens quite often in the beginning is it's almost like we feel that we're entitled to be able to do everything. We see what everybody's doing. We feel, well, that person over there is eating that. That person's able to run over there. That person's spending time with their kids. That person's doing all this. And we forget that there's an awful lot of back end work that all those people are doing that we don't know. We don't understand their main problems either. But for me, it started with we moved in Ireland. We moved to a different city. We moved from Dublin over to Galway, and myself and my wife at the time. Sorry, no, we weren't even married yet. We both moved to Canada, as I said, that 20 odd years ago, and we've been here ever since. But we only came for a year or two, and came with two bags each. That was basically what we arrived into, and
Wow.
we're now here where we are today. So it's been phenomenal. But yeah, when we got there, I realized that when I kind of was in a different place with different people around me, I could see all these people exercising. I could see all these people doing stuff. And I realized, oh, hang on a second. I can't just work hard, think to myself that don't eat in the day, go home and you can have this big, massive meal at the end of it. Like just bad habits that I was kind of picking up. And then eventually I said, all right, I need to start figuring out to do something. I need to get active again and see what the impact of that's going to be. And I started learning how to run. And
Hmm.
learn how to run is it's difficult. I didn't really have anything else to do, and you're kind of doing it alone. So, because anyone can walk and technically run if you want to, whether that's 5 meters or 5 kilometers or 25 kilometers. So, I would set myself a goal to run 3 or 4 times a week on the promenade in Galway Bay. So, going across the ocean, get whipped in the face by sand, water. Who knows what type of weather we would get. And one of the big things I started doing was I would I'd run between lampposts and say, all right, today I'm running one lamppost and then I'm walking and then I'm running the
Good
next
for
one.
you.
And then I'd build that up. And eventually I was like, okay, I can actually run this. And then it got to a stage where it's like I set myself a goal. It's like I kept running until no one would see me. Like if I needed to stop, no one could see me stopping. So
Hmm.
that was the next thing that I would kind of do. And then I eventually built that up. And like I've got a couple of medals up there behind me now. I've done quite a few different things.
Good for
Can
you.
do a 10K in about 50 minutes.
Whoa.
I continue to play soccer now, all those different things. And you realize that it just becomes part, it was always part of everything that you had to do. And you can't just decide that, hey, let's go on vacation and then maintain that mode for 2, 3, 4 months afterwards. It catches up pretty quick. But you can have half of half of what you're having and maintain exercise and be in a good place. So that discipline was incredibly important. And then within the MSP side of things, the discipline was really around our as a as a management team. We were incredibly focused about our relationship with our customers.
Hmm.
We always found it was more important to have a customer with a signed agreement than for like just pick how we could get that agreement to work. Obviously, within an awful lot, like we're not just saying, hey, we'll just take any old kind of company over here or anything like that. But it was important for us to know that let's have an agreement, even if it means that we are losing our shirt for 6 months. Let's build a trust, so then that way we can then get that time back over the next
Wow.
3 years to then be able to do that. We were very focused around those sorts of things. So then that really kind of put the emphasis on us to have that discipline around customers, customer experience, and it's what got us to where it got us to.
Hmm.
It was huge. Like a lot of people still forget that this business is still very much about relationships. It's still very much about meeting people where they are. And the kind of last chasm that we got across is the understanding of their businesses. And I think that's the big change that's truly coming in the next while, is getting out of the uptime idea of what we do and getting into the, hey, I understand how an architect firm works. I understand how a lawyer works. I understand how this
Hmm.
hotel over here works. And being able to talk at that level, because we're still fighting to get into that C-suite to have that relationship there. And when you do, it works phenomenal.
When you became partner, you're part of the leadership there at the MSP. There must have been a decision to. You said you made some acquisitions. You got bigger. You went to PE. Why grow that way? Well, why did you guys? Why did your team decide to grow that way? Why not just keep it a lifestyle with your 60% margins and keep it that way?
I guess probably because we had this kind of, a couple of us on the team always felt that you either have to grow as a business or you die.
Hmm.
If you're not technically growing or doing something new, then out of nowhere you arrive into the path where you've got one or two massive companies who are doing 40% of your MRR. One of them, they're growing or dying, whether you realize it or not. And they're getting ready for acquisition, or they're getting ready to transition off into a lifestyle or stuff like that. So you got to really understand that if you want to create a business and protect the business, you've got to understand that there's going to be times when those things aren't there, and the best way to fight against that is always growth.
Hmm.
It always continues to put you into a place um, where you're uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is good in business. If you get comfortable, then you're already losing customers like 3 months beforehand. They just haven't told you yet. And we really used to focus around that a hell of a lot at the time. So it was incredibly important for us to have that kind of growth kind of mindset.
Hmm.
Um, but it also meant that we were able to, as I said, understand our customers more. Not just get caught up with let's be really good at supporting these 20 customers over here, and then the other 100 are only getting a little bit of our help. It really forces us to look at that very differently. Um, but then also on top of that, we got a responsibility. Like at the end, before we sold the private equity, we were close to 90 employees and managing 160 customers. So it was probably with anywhere between 11, 12,000 nodes that we were managing. So we got a huge responsibility of making sure that people had a paycheck, people had a job. Those customers who we were supporting, we were helping to ensure that they were keeping the lights on as well. So we honestly looked at our business that way. And that was incredibly important
Hmm.
to us. And then when you are part of the business ideology like that, that you know that your customers are like that, then it means you can connect to your customers in a way that just makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool to hear. Great attitude as well about that. And when leadership comes together and decides to grow like that, it's an important thing because there can be some that just want to have lifestyle. Hey, things are pretty, let's not shake it. And there's ones that if you don't grow, you're dead. It's a great, great attitude. Wayne, what motivates you?
Oof. I always love the. I was never the type of person who wants to be brought in, make a big speech, or like, hey, look at all the amazing things that Wayne just did, or our company just did, or we just did for a customer. We would do small little things. So have our employees vote for like who is the employee of the quarter, who kind of emphasized this type of pieces that were there. Every Tuesday we would have a huddle within our organization, and we would talk about everything. So wins, complaints, losses, be incredibly open with our team. Um, but then also we'd have fun in it as well. We would talk about all the crazy stuff that's going on in IT. Here's some fun stuff that was there. Like I remember showing people deep fakes 8, 9 years ago, and people were laughing at me saying these
Hmm.
will never take off. I'm like, haha, wait till you see. Um,
Hmm.
and but so I've always kind of just loved to be the. I don't know whether it's because I even do this on Christmas Day. My wife gives out to me because like quite often we have everybody over to us at the holidays, and we do a big Christmas dinner. And we get people over to us, And she said, you never sit down with everybody when the food is there. Like you arrive like a minute or two or three later. I was just like, I'm just like sat here. I was like, there you go.
Hmm.
That's what it was all about, to bring everybody together, get everybody sitting there. They're the things that motivate me. Kind of
Hmm.
weirdly enough than anything else. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. I never heard that answer before. So, given that motivation, how do you measure success?
Ooh. Um. Wow. I wasn't expecting that question after that. I was even getting emotional thinking of what I was thinking there. I think there's always going to be two ways to
Self-discovery.
measure success. There's going to be your personal success.
Hmm.
There's going to be things that you want to achieve. It can come down to a goal to lose a certain amount of weight, to run a certain time, right through to just being there for your team, being there for your customers,
Hmm.
um, understanding that when they called you at 9 o'clock on a Friday afternoon or Friday evening, that there was a problem, um, kind of knowing that, hey, Wayne, I need your help. To me, that was success as well. To calling team members saying, hey guys, like 5 minutes later, we need to all jump on a call and talk about this. And then we're all being willing to do it. That was success. Um, like obviously you've got the big things as a business, like, hey, we hit these margins, hey, we did these things, we had this
Hmm.
number of
Hmm.
users and stuff like that. But a happy customer who gives you a referral is the biggest success you will ever have, more so than anything else.
Yeah, well said, Wayne. Well said. I really, really thank you for your time today. I was looking forward. I just love talking to MSPs, ex MSPs that just still want to come back in. It's just such a great community. It's very rewarding. It's very giving. Um, Anybody listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you got you can obviously check out Symoda on the website, symoda.com. You can get me at wcreamer@symoda.com as well. It's Symoda. That's creamer like you put in your coffee. So I know a lot of people do struggle with that. So WCREA, because I say my A is a little bit different,
Hmm.
MER at Symoda.com. And you can get me on LinkedIn. I'm Wayne Creamer there as well. And yeah, I love to talk. I love to help any way I can with just my experiences from within the MSP space. And really, we're trying to build a solution with MSPs in mind. We don't have we don't ever want to really build a solution in a way where it's, hey, this bit is at this tier, this bit's at this tier. It's our like, here's our full solution. And hey, if you want to truly partner with us, like let's sit down and talk. And how can we become a partner together? Because an awful lot of the solutions that are out there are being built and being really successful, and they didn't bring partners with them.
Hmm.
And we would love to do that if we can. So.
Very, very cool. And next time we'll see each other, we'll have the true debate of Manchester City versus Manchester United. So that would be the English Premier champs versus the FA Cup champs, right? Of the currently.
Oh, I'd love to say that that's where we really are when it comes to the divide of Manchester right now. But no, as a long term Manchester United fan, I will take my hat off to Manchester City. You guys have been phenomenal. You've been the team to beat in Europe for a long time, even though you still haven't managed to truly win Europe just yet. But yeah, I think we luckily won the FA Cup final. I think we just had a little bit more drive in that game. A couple of players had a couple of things to prove. A couple of things worked out for us. But I think long over a season, I don't see United beating City at the moment for a little while.
Yeah,
I think there's some big changes coming though.
it's going to be a great season. You won that, and then the United fired their manager, right?
No, he's still there.
Oh, I thought they let him go. They kept him.
No, they
Ah,
did keep him. So
yeah. I like him actually.
yeah, well, he's a mixture of old school manager
Yeah,
type
he is.
and trying to be
Yeah.
modern as well. So it's interesting. I don't know how well he connects with players, and I think
Mm,
this is one of the big things when it comes to sports in Europe over North America, is that you kind of have to have that connection with the players and build a team.
mm.
Um, and it becomes a
Communication.
becomes an important thing. So
Yeah.
there's
Maybe
still a lot of tribalism when it comes to supporting teams. You gotta
over there.
in our to me, I find it weird here. So I'm in Ottawa. And then the majority of people here in hockey support either Montreal Canadiens or Toronto Maple Leafs. And then when I ask people, why is that? It's like, well, we didn't have a team for a long time. I say, what do you mean you
Right.
didn't have a team? To me, I believe it should be grassroots. You start off in local hockey, you worked your way up, and you made it to the professional team in the city. And they're like,
Mm.
no, it's not like that at all. The team left. I'm like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
The team
Yeah.
just upped and left. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bought and was brought to like somewhere in the US. I'm like, right. And then how did the team come back? Oh, they bought another one in the US and brought it
Right.
back to. I'm here like, oh my god. So it becomes it becomes very different.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, we're very tribal.
Yes.
And if you go to certain stadiums, even South America is incredibly tribal still.
Yes.
It's all you were brought up that way. You were built that way. Like even when I was a kid, I was trying to decide would I be a Man United fan or not. All my friends were Liverpool fans because Liverpool were the team to beat at
Of
the time.
course.
And then I decided to just to be different, just because I was a little kid and probably a tad immature. I decided to ask them, I was like, well, who's the team who you always lose to in the final or whatever? And they said, Manchester United. I was like, perfect. I'm going to be Manchester United. And that's literally what started.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. I mean, United, the players are great. The management is really, maybe they need to have better communication, just like you did at the
Exactly. If they
MSP.
need, we can put the United logo on the
Yeah.
app.
See
We can
that?
get the technician, sorry, the manager can send an approval to the
Mm-hmm.
player saying, do you
Mm-hmm.
approve actually attacking and coming back and
Look at that.
defending? And
Creating
they can be
solutions.
denied because they're not going to do it. So we can definitely do stuff like that. But no, I do think United got so big as a team for a long time.
Mm,
They got complacent. It's
they
almost to a
did.
degree to everything we
They
just
did.
talked about. They got complacent.
Mm.
They didn't update stuff. Like I don't even know if you saw some of the things last season where there was a big leak kind of
Yes.
pouring down on people. Like we're talking like one of the biggest clubs in the world. People
Absolutely.
were trying to buy it for like 5 to 6 billion, and you've got a massive leak which happened multiple times across the season, affecting fans who are paying money to come from different countries to stand there. Yeah, there's an inherent change that needs to happen inside a club, and I do believe they're on the path to make that, but it's going to take time.
It's going to take time. Yeah. And I'm in Tampa now. And so the owners actually are here, right? The
Oh, yeah,
Glazers are
yeah,
here.
the Blazers. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's part of the issue, too. Doesn't seem like they're putting any money back in. But
they've split
Wayne,
the club in half. Sorry, I know you want to finish up. They split the
yeah,
club in half. They own the marketing rights, and now they've sold the management of the football level. So that's all
I
now
see.
inside the soccer level. So there's a different owner with
Interesting.
that. So the
Ah,
Blazers can do what they do well, and then hopefully these guys will do what they do well.
what did they
So
do? I didn't realize that. Very
yeah,
cool. Wow. Wayne, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in person next time. Maybe it'll be at IT Nation and we'll have a drink.
that would be amazing. I'll be
Cheers. You be well.
happy have a drink with anybody. So
That'll be great. Thanks again, Wayne. Be well.
no problem at all. You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.